Walmart is the largest private employer in the entire world. The only free companies that come anywhere close are ministries of defense for entire countries, the three most populated on Earth. In fact, Walmart is such a big company that it actually had the largest revenue of any company on Earth, including a literal oil giant from Saudi Arabia. This is an insane stat to sell $600 billion worth of product, and yet despite that fact, if you look through the world's most valuable stocks, you'll find that Walmart is not number 1, number 2, number 3, or even anywhere in the top 10. The most valuable stock is Berkshire Hathaway's, costing $463,000, and maybe you'll find Costco's interesting here at $484, but you have to scroll down real far before you find yourself a Walmart on here. Wow, is McDonald's more valuable than Walmart? Well, I mean, obviously I'm using the price of the stock when really the valuable thing to mention here is market cap. The market capitalization is the price of every single stock times the number of stocks that there are. If there's only one stock for a giant company and it's worth $2 trillion, that means less than if there's 2.3 trillion stocks worth $1, to keep things simple. And so as you can see, the most valuable company in terms of the total value of all of their stocks put together is Apple, with about 2.33 trillion in value. This is something that's actually fluctuated a lot. Microsoft and Apple have kind of gone 1 to 2 for who's actually more valuable, with sometimes even Saudi Aramco coming close third. But you can see after that there's a pretty steep dip off from around the $2 trillion, which is, by the way, insane. A company is worth about $2 trillion and there's 3 of them, but then you can see it kind of dips down after that, with Alphabet, also known as Google, being about 1.15 trillion, then Amazon, and then we can see we got a lot of countries in the hundreds of billions. We've got a few companies in the tens of billions, but by and large, most companies are not worth thousands of billions of dollars. But there's a really interesting point here about, like, why is it that Apple is the most valuable company and Walmart is just 20th on the list, which is higher than I assumed, by the way. How is it that Walmart can employ so many people, sell so much stuff, and yet be worth less by a huge amount than Apple, who sells almost, like 2/3 as much stuff as them? How is it that Walmart, the giant company, is worth 1/7 of a company that sells half as much? And the simple answer to that is, well, there's a lot more to being a business than just selling stuff, right? In fact, employing, these employment figures are a bad thing in a way. They are a sign that all of these companies need 2 million people, or 1 million, the National Health Service, the literal government-run health body in the UK, needs fewer employees to function than Amazon and Walmart do. This is actually a damning indictment of their business model to an investor, because even if they sell a bunch of stuff, in fact, they're two of the most two of the highest revenue companies on the planet, and that seems like it's a really good thing until you think about it a bit further and realize that, yeah, Amazon and Walmart are known for being very affordable, right? The reason they sell so much is in part because they work on bulk. They work on making their margin by selling so darn much that they manage to get that point. However, that is actually not exactly where you want to end up. The reason that Apple and Microsoft and Saudi Aramco are in the same category, these same 3 companies are about $2 trillion, is because they're all in this genius business model of selling things that are worth a lot to people who buy them, but yet don't cost them very much to produce. If you literally can just pump oil out of the ground, wow, you can sell that for ridiculous amounts and your company will be worth trillions. If you can sell people operating systems, which everyone in the world needs to function, you'll make a ton of money. If you can sell, and with Apple, I think they are the prime case of what I like to call the high volume, high profit margin problem. So there are 4 types of products if we segregate things of this lovely line diagram. There are products which you can sell not very much of. There are products which you can sell a lot of. There are products which you can make a lot of money on, and there's products which you can make very little money on. I don't know where my mouse has gone here. There it is. So to show this in other words, we have I need to get a bigger brush here. You know what's going on with this? But to show this in better ways, here is the orchard farmer. You grow a few trees with some apples on them, and then how much can you really sell an apple for? Oh, these are way better looking apples, right? Like, oh, this isn't what apples look like at all. But okay, let's try that again. Okay, this is my apple tree. It's very beautiful. But how many apples can you grow? Not very many. You grow apple trees, and then in 15 years, they produce a few apples. And how much can you sell apples for? Not very much. It's a low margin, low profit business. It's one of those things which you wouldn't get into if you didn't already own an apple farm. And so it's considered to be a bad business. Don't invest in apple trees. Have you ever heard a single person say, yeah, a really good investment, mate, is what you do is you buy some some trees with some apples on, and then in 20 years, you make a few quid from the... No one ever says that. The alternative to this is having a low volume business, but one with very high margins. And a great example of this is luxury cars. You can sell these for hundreds of thousands, but the problem is the market just isn't very big. There aren't many people who want to buy Ferraris. Do you like my Ferrari? It's high quality, I think. There aren't that many people who are out there trying to buy themselves some Ferraris, right? And so even if you can make $50,000 on each sale, how many sales can you make a year? A few hundred? Maybe a few thousand or tens of thousands if you really push it. But there's a real limit to how far you can actually take this. And so yeah, I think the idea is real nice. A lot of people would like to sell Ferraris all the time, but you don't actually make a ton of money. It's something you kind of have to do for passion and then also to be like a luxury business. The other end of this is you can sell so many of something. For example, there is McDonald's, but you're selling it at a low margin, and this is actually a profitable business strategy. If we go back and we check the list, okay, where's McDonald's on here? It's not one of the very, very, very highest, but I think it's in the top 100. It's 49th. So McDonald's is the 49th most valuable company in the world, and they sell you 99-cent hamburgers. What does a McDonald's burger actually cost now? What does McDonald's burger cost? That's a reasonable Google search. They sell a Big Mac for £3.69. You can get a bacon mayo chicken. That's 4 ingredients in a burger for £1.59. They have to think about the amount of effort that takes, and they give it to you for that cheap. They're making next to no money on that transaction, but they are selling thousands of them every single minute across the world. There are so many McDonald's burgers and fries and drinks being sold right now, and some of those items might make a bit more money than others, but by and large, McDonald's doesn't make huge profits per item. They sell huge amounts of items, and that is the real trick to it. And so these are the 3 types of businesses that usually exist. The 2 types that are reasonably successful are high margin, low volume, or low margin, high volume. This is if we scroll through the list, if we scroll back through here, you can see like, okay, you look at Coca-Cola. Where was Coca-Cola? I was seeing it. So you look at Coca-Cola, they're worth, their stock is $60, and they're worth about $250 billion as a company because everyone needs Coke, and so people buy it, packs of 12 of it once a week, maybe twice a week in some cases. And so even if they only make a few cents or a few dollars per sale, that adds up very quickly. The same is true for PepsiCo. Wow, Pepsi is worth so close to Coke. I thought it was so one-sided, but apparently they're pretty close. So there's Coke and there's Pepsi as examples. There's McDonald's, there's Costco. Costco famously makes next to no money on the sales of their stuff. They just charge for membership fees to get in there. Maybe even for Toyota. They are, you might think of a car as a luxury good, but the point that Toyota goes for is we'll make basically nothing per sale, but then make enough sales that it's a good business. So yeah, you can take any of these products to any of these other categories. If you think about it, right? A luxury car, if you just make it, if you think about a luxury car and you just deluxurify it so more people can buy it, it becomes a high volume, low margin business like Toyota. If you just think of your McDonald's but you make it real fancy, then far fewer people can buy it, but now it's high margin, low volume. You can take any of these business models and move them around, but the ultimate thing that every company would love to do is be in the high volume, high margin business. Let's say you could make a box, right? Let's just imagine a box, and that box could cost you only a few $100s, if that, in raw ingredients, but people would see it as a luxury worth thousands, literally worth many, many multiples of what you charge for it, and then everyone would see it as a necessity. Let's say you wouldn't be cool with that one, right? That would be ridiculous, except I just described the most valuable company in the world's products, right? The thing that Apple does well is not they don't have some, it's not that they are outselling other companies. It's not that they have higher margins than other companies necessarily. It's that they do both those things together so well. They sell millions of smartphones every year, and they've worked, and it's not like, unlike other companies which are always trying to work out the next way forwards and spending this ridiculous amount on putting new fun things in that. Look at me, I got a folding phone over here. But, but at the same time, what's my folding phones company's worth? Ooh, the 23rd most valuable in the world, because it takes a lot of money to do all these sorts of things. Whereas Apple's just like, yes, we will keep making phones that cost 1/5 of what they sell for, and they will keep being seen as a luxury good. This seems like a bitter, like, anti-Apple sentiment. No, it's me saying, oh my God, they have worked out a way that they can, instead of $1, we'll give it $3, and then we'll give like $2 for, you can make a lot of money if you can sell a lot of things for a high margin. Like most businesses will just tell you specialize like this or specialize like this. But if you can make this happen, you'll become one of the most valuable companies on the earth. This is precisely what Microsoft did. This is precisely what Tesla, to some extent, was doing with their early models, and they kind of moved to the model of bulking. But the theory is that even though Teslas themselves cost roughly what they sell for, they're selling something called full self-driving, which is software. They're selling you software for what does Tesla self-driving cost? Let me just, in case you don't believe this one, this is a software update for all of their existing cars. You can spend $199 a month in basically pure profit, or $15,000 to buy it once. That is $15,000 for a product that costs them nothing. That is the high margin, high volume business. A lot of people want their cars to drive themselves, and a lot of people will pay a lot of money for that. And so if they can make that happen, they'll be in the Apple category. The same is true effectively when you think about it for Microsoft. Everyone thinks themselves, I need a Windows operating system. I mean, no one thinks that now, that's why it's free. But you need Microsoft Word to compete. Every time I try to send somewhat corporate things in either Notepad or WordPad or something like that, people look at you and go, can you send this in real, please? Can I have a real version of this? And so the thing that makes a company valuable, you can even look this up, is so if you just type in the stock code for any company, or if you want to be more layman, just type in Apple stock, right? And you can find out that Apple stock is worth $146. These are the graphs you usually see, but what does this really mean, right? The thing that makes it the most valuable is when you go into more about Apple and you learn that the thing that they're doing so well is they sell $90 billion worth of stuff in a year. That's lower than I would have expected to be worth $2 trillion, but they sell $90 billion worth of stuff in a year, and then out of that, they get to keep, after taxes, operating expenses, and all their interest charges and whatnot, debt, loan debt, etc. Their actual profit they get to keep is $20 billion, $20.72 billion, 23% of their total. They are a high profit business. Even if something comes along, they have an increase in their costs, they have a decrease in their sales, they're going to be making a ton of money. To use a better term to explain why Apple is worth more than Walmart, despite selling less, revenue is vanity and profit is sanity, and my god is Apple making a ton of profit. Even if it's not a ton overall, it's a ton as a percentage. Whereas if we look at what is Walmart, it's not going to be NASDAQ. Walmart, let's just type it in. Whereas Walmart is worth $140, and if we dive into more of their stats, you can see they made they made a loss last year. They made 100. Okay, the year before that, they made 100. We'll take years. Last year they made $559.15 billion. And out of that, 2.4% was profit. That is even though that's still saying they're a huge company. I mean, when you're competing with the People's Liberation Army for your number of employees, you got a big business, right? They've got a lot of might and a lot of power and a lot of things they can do. But at the same time, it's are you making that much money? And if you do the same, what makes Amazon... obviously, Amazon.com Inc., if we use them as another example, you can see that they're making 2.2% too. They're in retail. It's not a hugely profitable business, but they are reinvesting and they're growing, and they're always saying we can get into these high yield markets with our money we'll eventually generate, which is something that makes them, this is quite surprising, right? Amazon and Walmart are basically the same company, except Walmart sells a bit more than Amazon, 20% more, but yet in spite of that, investors feel better. Remember, prices for stocks are all about whether investors are willing to buy it or not. Investors think that Amazon has more future increase potential than Walmart does. Walmart is stuck in the brick and mortars game. They're actually trying to change that, whereas Amazon sells things digitally and so could make a bunch of profit in the future. In fact, the thing that really dictates the price of a company, if we look at the most valuable companies ever to exist, you find the Dutch, even though Apple's up there, this is from 2018, even though Apple and Microsoft are up there, the most valuable companies are Standard Oil or the South Sea Company in the UK, or the Dutch East India Company, companies that were seen as huge because they had such a huge remit. But literally, where's the Dutch East India Company today, I tell you? Where is Standard Oil today? It's been split up. If you want to know a fun fact, in 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that it was a monopoly, and therefore they split it up into separate companies, and so there's no more Standard Oil. There's like an Esso, and there's a trillion different companies that have come from Standard Oil, but they don't exist as a company anymore. They were deliberately split up because they got too big. The Dutch East India Company was absorbed by, and the South Sea Company for the UK too, were absorbed by their respective governments. They got that level of huge, so there is a kind of risk involved in this too. Like, it's not just risk for being absorbed by the government, but people see Apple's business model as being less risky. People always want iPhones, people always want oil, people will always want to Google things, but will people always want, like as a example lower down the list, Nestle products? I don't want Nestle products. I buy them without wanting them. Maybe that's a good thing for them. I don't know for sure, but you can see when you go lower down the list, you get these products that are seen as a bit more risky. They're still huge companies. They're still like, we're talking about the McDonald's of the world, and I know what's a good one that's low down this list. Like, Nike is very, they make some good money per shoe, and it's a fine profit margin. But like at some point, what if people don't want Nike anymore? There will be an usurper in their industry. There might eventually be one in the tech game, but people believe in these companies' ability to continue to dominate, and that's why they're worth 2 trillion, 1.8 trillion, etc. And so yeah, there's a very interesting game to be had in all of this. But for now, I just wanted to say, here's how you find out what a company earns. Here's why a company that earned let's go back to annual. A company that earned $469 billion is worth less than a company that earned a lot less than that. I guess when I was on Apple, I was probably also seeing by quarter, yeah. And in a year, Apple actually makes $400 billion. That lines up with the previous number. But the fact that they keep $100 billion, their profit is $100 billion. After everything, expenses, tax, and all that stuff, they just have $100 billion they get to choose what to do with every year. That is insane. That is a lot of money. And speaking of things that are a lot, this video, if you liked it, subscribe. And the goal is to teach you for the philosophy of money and how you can see it slightly differently. And just remember, having a lot of money doesn't matter as much as having a lot of money and seeing that as a stable thing for the long-term future, or even better, having a lot of money and getting to actually keep most of it. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, because I'll see ya in the next video, where we'll talk about the Ministry of Defense of India and why they're such a valuable company. I don't think you can buy them on the stock exchange, though. Now that I think about it, Ministry of Defense. I've got great spelling, trust me. You can't buy stock in the Ministry of Defense yet, but just you wait, maybe one day. Anyway, thank you for watching. Third channel, don't care. Goodbye.